The Week 14 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground is brought to you by MyBookie. Still on the sidelines but want to get in the game? MyBookie is the place to go. If you're the kind of guy that likes to bet a little and win a lot, you can create a big parlay. Pick 3 games to win, and if you hit all 3, you could turn $100 into $600. And even though we're running out of real estate on football season, there's still plenty for you to be able to get your betting fix with. Basketball, college basketball, the NBA, NFL, NHL, custom props, even esports, you name it. MyBookie is the one bet I know you'll be happy with all year. Sign up this week, and MyBookie will give you a 50% deposit bonus to jumpstart your bankroll. Also, make sure to follow at BetMyBookie on Twitter. They personally respond to every mention and DM, not to mention that they've given away more than $10,000 in free money to their followers this football season. You'll also be the first to know when new odds and props are posted. So don't miss out. Log on to MyBookie right now and use the promo code BEARS25 to get your 50% deposit bonus. That's promo code BEARS25. MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. This week on the Bears Talk Underground. After a back-breaking loss in New York last week, our beloved had no time to hang their heads in sulk because the best team in football was coming to Soldier Field for a national TV date to stake their claim in the NFC and give the reeling Bears their second straight loss. Did the Bears conquer primetime again, or were the Rams just too much? All of this plus Bear Up and Bear Down on the Week 14 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground.
Hang up the telephone, I hear the dial tone, ringing out loud.
The Bears and Rams finally met on the main stage on Sunday Night Football, and the result was everything that we as Bear fans could have hoped for. What's going on, everybody? Liberty back for the Week 14 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground, and for the second time in a row, the Bears faced an opponent that was supposed to be better than them. They met them on the main stage on Sunday Night Football at home in front of our crowd, and both times our beloved came away the convincing victor as the Bears easily put the Rams down 15-6 last night. And what's so amazing about how the defense played last night was the fact that somebody put out a tweet either late last night or early this morning naming the amount of the point totals for the Rams throughout this 2018 season. Obviously, 6 is the season low, but there was some 40 games. There was the 54-point game against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. The lowest point total of the year for the Rams this year was 23. And, I mean, even when in the one game that they lost to the Saints, they lost that game 45-35. So even a losing effort, they still scored 35 points. And last night, a team that was 2 weeks removed from scoring 8 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs only managed to score 0 against our defense last night. So, talk about all you want about the weather conditions, being on the road, and what have you. That's going to affect you to a degree. But in the end, the defense was suffocating from moment one until the final gun. And, the Bears really, really established themselves as a serious contender in the NFC. Not in 2019 like we've been talking about most of this season, but right here, right now. There's no denying that after the performance they gave last night, the Bears can absolutely play with anybody you put in front of them. So what a way to kick off the show, right? I mean, what an amazing game last night. Not very exciting in the way of points. I was hoping there would be more points on the board, but the fewer points, the better as far as the Bears were concerned. And, it was quite a performance on both sides. And there's positives and negatives to both. Negative mostly on the offensive side because it was Mitch Trubisky's first game back since the last Sunday night game 3 weeks ago against the Minnesota Vikings, where he bruised his shoulder against the Vikings in a winning effort there. Missed the Thanksgiving game and last Sunday's loss to the New York Giants. And the concerns about, rust and things like that, truthfully, it didn't look like rust to me. And I say that because he was having the same issues that he's been having pretty much all year. I think it's more of a fundamental issue with Mitch right now, more than anything, something that I hope definitely gets worked on in the offseason. There's something off with the way he's throwing the ball that they just keep sailing on him like that. I mean, you'll hear me talk about it in the knee-jerk reactions throughout the episode about some of the issues that he had throwing the football. Was the weather stiffening him up? Was he not 100% as he proclaimed to be, or what have you? But in the end, I do think it's more of a fundamental issue on some of those throws, because it's not his decision making. He's just making bad throws. That throw to Trey Burton last night in I think it was the third quarter. Burton was wide open, so it was definitely the right throw. He just sailed it right over his head. The first interception on the opening drive to Josh Bellamy. Bellamy was open in space, and Marcus Peters, who made the interception, was a good 5 yards behind Josh Bellamy, and hit him right in the breadbasket with the ball because it went sailing over Josh Bellamy's head. I mean, it happened all 3 times last night. It really wasn't so much that the LA defenders made excellent plays or anything like that. It was more of a right place, right time type situation, and they were sitting in the area where the ball happened to land after Mitch got done sailing it over his intended receiver's head. So I think this is a mechanical issue with Mitch, and the one positive thing about that is that it's correctable. So it's not so much like it was with Jay, where he was just making stupid decisions, throwing it where you shouldn't throw it and things like that. Mitch, by my memory and the way that I remember the game going last night, every time that he threw an interception, he was going to the right place with the ball. He just threw it nowhere near where he needed to in order to complete the pass. So, but encouraging in a way for Mitch Trubisky to have 110 yards passing, 1 touchdown, which we'll get to later, and 3 picks, and for the Bears to still easily walk away with a victory for the Rams, or over the Rams, I should say. So it's definitely showing a lot of growth as to where this football team is, and just think of where we have been, because there's no way that any time during the Tressman or Fox era we could have withstood 110 yards passing and 3 interceptions from our quarterback and come away with a dominant win. Mitch Trubisky has been somewhat of a footnote in the book of this game because of the defense and their performance last night. I mean, they literally did something that no one else has been able to figure out how to do to the Rams. We completely shut them down. Todd Gurley, I think combined, had less than 60 yards of total offense, rushing and receiving last night. Jared Goff ended up with 180 yards passing, but that was because there was a lot of passing going on at the end when they were trying to diminish the 2-score deficit that they were under pretty much since the start of the third quarter. Goff threw 4 interceptions. One was a freebie as Hail Mary at the end of the first half, but nonetheless, that's 4 picks that went against him, sacked for the safety in the third quarter, and so on and so forth. And it just kind of goes to me being able to pat myself on the back for being a genius, because what did I say during the preview episode? That in the end, this football game, when you're playing a high-level game, between 2 high-level talented teams like what we had last night, it always comes down to who makes the fewest mistakes. And just in a general, easy way to look at it, Mitch Trubisky threw 3 interceptions last night, but Jared Goff threw 4 and got sacked for a safety. Just on a conservative side, that's 5 mistakes that the Rams made. 5 is more than 3. The Bears made fewer mistakes. They win. You'll actually hear me say that pretty much word for word in the fourth quarter knee-jerk reaction. I couldn't help myself, but there you go. We made the fewest mistakes on Sunday. We came away with the win. I said at the end of that, when I was making that point, I really do think it's as simple as that, and in the end, that's absolutely what happened. The Bears walked away making fewer mistakes. Therefore, they walked away the victor on Sunday night. And what a huge win for us. And in a way, kind of makes the loss to the Giants that much more bitter. That the sting that much more because I'm producing the show a little bit late tonight because I had a little sinus headache when I got home, so I took a nap when I got in. Got up just in time. I don't know how I'm getting to bed on time tonight. I really don't. But I got up to watch the second half of the Monday night game and watch the Seattle Seahawks beat the Minnesota Vikings. Had the Bears won last Sunday, we would have a 3.5 game lead on Minnesota right now, and we would have clinched the division tonight. We would have been up 3.5 games with 3 left to play. We'd be NFC North Division champs right here, right now, if we'd have been able to pull it off against the Giants last week. We'd be 10-3 right now with the Vikings at 6-6-1, a 3.5 game lead with 3 games to play. We'd be popping the corks right now. But instead, Minnesota's loss tonight, however, does turn Sunday's game against Green Bay into an opportunity for our beloved to clinch the division against the Packers, because if they win, no matter what happens with Minnesota, win or lose, we'd be up at least 2.5 games with 2 games to play. So when we get done kicking the holy hell out of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers on Sunday, which I fully expect us to do, we will be the NFC North champs for the first time since 2010. So that's a lot of years not being able to talk about playoff games or division contention or anything like that. Aside from 2010, the last time the Bears were serious contenders in the NFC North was in 2013, the first year of Trestman. We've been a joke ever since. So having this season come along finally has been a complete breath of fresh air. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in to the knee-jerk reactions. My apologies. There is no second quarter knee-jerk reaction. I think what happened was the microphone that I use for the knee-jerk reactions has a on-off switch on the side of it. It's a little $10 Kmart mic that I bought 15 years ago or whatever it was. And I use that to give the knee-jerk reactions a different sound. I think I turned it off, actually, just as I was getting started, but there is no second quarter knee-jerk reaction. I recorded 2.5 minutes of silence at halftime. So we're going to jump from the first quarter knee-jerk reaction all the way to the third, but I'll fill in the gaps in between, I promise. So first quarter knee-jerk reaction, it doesn't start the way we want it to on offense. Mitch kind of comes away with a bittersweet opening drive, running the football like the Mitch that we all know and love, but also throwing the football a little bit like the Mitch we know and love.
Knee-jerk reaction in the first quarter, the Bears and the Rams, and the heavyweight bout, the main event, has been a tit-for-tat so far. Did not start the way that we Bear fans would have liked. We started with the football, and Mitch is showing flashes of his old self, scrambling for a couple of first downs, but one of our greatest fears of maybe him showing some kind of rust on that first drive came to fruition when he let a pass sail high, went over the hands of Josh Bellamy into the open arms of Marcus Peters. The Rams brought it all the way back, I think, to about the 10-yard line. It was something like a 48-yard return after the interception. The Bears defense held firm and forced a field goal attempt, giving the Rams an early 3-0 lead. The Bears come back on offense. We're able to, with the help of Tariq Cohen, running the football fairly well, but also mixing it up. Jordan Howard here, Tariq Cohen there. More success with Tariq Cohen than Jordan Howard thus far, and we were able to get ourselves within field goal range, and we're tied at 3-3 right now. Right now, the Rams, at the end of the first quarter, going into the second, have the football. They're near midfield. It's 3rd and 2 right now, and, right now, all I can say is the Bears aren't scared. They're not scared. This moment isn't too big for them. They're not overwhelmed by the competition or anything like that, but they're in a fight. It's 3-3 at the end of the first quarter, and hopefully we'll know more about how the game is going to go by halftime.
So because the defense came off the bus ready to play, the interception turned out in the end to be more of a no harm, no foul kind of thing. We were able to even though the Rams, the most explosive offense, depending on who you're talking to, whether it's Kansas City or New Orleans or the Rams, I've had more of an opportunity to watch the Rams, and they've dazzled me pretty much every single week until last night, of course, which was a lot of fun to watch. But the most explosive offense in football, or the most versatile offense in football, starts with the football in the red zone. I mean, that's enough to make your stomach tie up in knots. Like, oh, God, here we go, man. The interception, that's the last thing we needed from Mitch. They brought it all the way back inside the 10, and defense was like, nope, not tonight. No, you're gonna hold right here and go ahead and kick that field goal if you want, and held them to the 3 points. And then the offense answered, which is another thing that we did not see for such a long time. Hell, we didn't see that a lot within the Lovey years when the Bears were actually good more than they were bad. You know, Lovey was 81-63 as head coach. There were a lot more happy Sundays than there were sad ones, but even in those days, if the defense didn't do it, we didn't do it at all. There were very few opportunities that we would see our offense answer something like what happened last night. Usually that would have been something that would have sidetracked us, slowed us down, you know, maybe knocked us off the game plan or whatever the case may be. But instead, after giving up the interception and the field goal, the Bears come back with a drive of their own and answer with our own field goal to make it a 3-3 game, or essentially a 0-0 game. And that's the other thing that's been so amazing about watching this team this year, is our ability to answer, to the ability to play the entire 60 minutes, which is why I can't wait to play Green Bay on Sunday, because we didn't do that against Green Bay the week one. We should have, and we didn't. And hopefully that's that's an error that we will correct this coming Sunday. I want this game so bad, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself, but you know, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks. I want this one. I really, really do. But you know, so the first quarter ended 3-3. The defense, playing more of a catch-up type thing, having been put in an early hole by the interception. You know, their backs are against the wall, quite literally, starting inside their own 10-yard line, but holding firm like the monsters that they've been all year, and forcing the field goal. And in the second quarter, sorry, because there's no knee-jerk reaction, the excitement came from our defense this time around. After the Bears punt the ball away to the Rams on the very first play, Roquan Smith, his first interception as a professional. And I also saw on Twitter, it's the first interception that kid's gotten since his senior year in high school. He didn't get a single interception in his All-American stint at Georgia. Not one interception for Roquan. He gets one in the biggest game of the year and nearly takes it back for a touchdown, gets it down to the 4-yard line. Unfortunately, our offense couldn't get out of its own way on that drive. An illegal formation penalty on first down, a holding penalty on second down. So we went from first and goal at the 4 to first and goal at the 19, and in the end had to settle for a field goal. So we're up 6-3 on the Rams, but the damage had been done. The Rams were able to answer with their own field goal to tie it up before the half, a 50-yard field goal with about 4 minutes to go in the first half. But, it was trying to look to see where the other interception was, I think it was in the third quarter, third and fourth quarter for the interceptions for Mitch. But I think nope. Wait a minute. There it is. I'm going play by play. Sorry. Third quarter. No, or just before halftime. Mitchell Trubisky pass intercepted, intended for Taylor Gabriel. So yeah, there it was. And that was the one that was a bad decision, that throw. Now that I remember the play, because the defender was literally standing in front of Taylor Gabriel. It almost makes you wonder why Mitch threw him, because Taylor Gabriel's not the world's biggest receiver. So there's a very good chance that when Mitch looked to throw the football, he couldn't see Taylor Gabriel back there. I mean, because he threw it right to that guy over there. So that one, yes, that was a bad decision, more so than a bad throw. I don't know what the hell he was thinking on that one. But once again, the Bears defense swallowing up the offense of the Rams. Eddie Jackson comes away with an interception right at the half, a gimme on a Hail Mary nonetheless. But The Bears walking away with a 6-6 tie at the half was basically, like I said before, a 0-0 tie going into the halftime. And one thing I remember saying during that knee-jerk reaction was that with the game, tied the way that it was, 6-6 at the half, the Bears were running the football very well in the first half. You heard me mention it during the first quarter knee-jerk reaction. Seemed like we had a little bit more success with Tariq Cohen because we were spreading the Rams out. They were playing pass more than they were playing run, which left a lot open in the middle of the field. So it's not like our offensive linemen had to really dig in and win the war in the trenches to get open running lanes for our running backs last night. I mean, we granted they got some studs up front, and Ndamukong Suh and Michael Brockers, and that guy named Aaron Donald and everything. But it was all about finding the lanes in the running game. Jordan Howard quietly last night, his first 100-yard game of the season. He was averaging, I think, 5 yards carry last night, something like that. 19 carries for 19 carries, 101 yards, 5.3 yards a carry last night with a long of 20. The only problem that I had was, at times I kind of wished, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous, at times last night I kind of wish it was Loggins or Fox that were calling the offensive plays, because it used to be, Jordan Howard would break one off for about 12. We would turn right around and hand it off to him again and let him get 5 or 6 more or something like that. And instead, Jordan Howard was coming off the field for Taquan Mazzell or Tariq Cohen or something like that. It's like, no, leave Howard out there. Let him run the ball a few more times. We're pounding it. Let our pound guy run the ball. Go ahead and leave him out there for a couple more plays. Then take him out. He's in shape. Let him run 2-3 times in a row. It's not going to kill him. So other than that, I love the way that we were running the ball last night. It helped us conserve the clock to win the time of possession battle against the Rams last night. 36-49 to 23-11. So basically 37 minutes to 23 last night. Nearly a full quarter time of possession advantage for the Bears. And that's what it looked like at halftime. I think we had a 7 or 8 minute advantage at halftime. We basically did the same thing all over again in the third quarter. The Bears got off to a hot start in the third quarter, and Eddie Goldman doing his thing, Leonard Floyd getting in on some plays, shutting down Todd Gurley, and then making the plays that won us the game. We won the game in the third quarter.
Knee-jerk reaction to the third quarter, the Bears and the Rams. And despite a couple of mistakes, the Bears have not made as many as the Rams have made in this football game. Therefore, we are winning this ball game. It is a 2-score game right now, 15-6. The Bears lead the Rams, and we came out guns blazing in the second half. The very first, I think it was like maybe the second or third play of the half. Actually, it was 2 plays. On the very first play from scrimmage in the third quarter, the Bears stuffed Todd Gurley for a 5-yard loss on his first carry, and then on second down, Eddie Goldman pushes 2 Rams linemen aside to sack Jared Goff for a safety, making it 8-6. The Bears get the football back, drive it all the way back down, and on third down, we have 3 defensive linemen in on 3rd and goal. Then fake the handoff to Akeem Hicks on the play action and hit Bradley Soul for the touchdown. And what I noticed in watching replays is that it was an all lineman passing route, which means the only linemen were the receivers on the play, because Bradley Soul caught the ball about 2 yards ahead of Roy Robertson Harris. That was the other receiver on that particular route. So it was Bilal. There were 4 defensive linemen, now that I think about it, because Bullard and Nichols were lined up just behind the line of scrimmage. Akeem Hicks is in the backfield, and Roy Robertson Harris was the other tight end on that play. Roy Robertson Harris and Bradley Soul were the receivers on that route, and Bradley Soul comes down with it. And I saw my favorite stat of 2018 on Twitter saying that in this football game, Todd Gurley has 0 touchdowns, Bradley Soul has 1. I mean, how could you not love every ounce of that particular statement? The defense has been outstanding, and that's despite Mitch Trubisky throwing his 3rd interception, killing a very promising-looking drive for the Bears. He's just been wildly inaccurate today. I don't know if his shoulder is still bothering him, if the cold is affecting him. Maybe he's stiff or something out there, so that's affecting his motion or something. But it's been all night that he's having problems. The ball is sailing on him. It flew over Trey Burton's head into the receiver's hand, into the defender's hands, killing that drive. But on the very next play, Kyle Fuller with his 7th interception of the year to take the football back. And the Bears just ended the 3rd quarter, punting it back to the Rams. The Rams are deep in their own territory. They got to score twice against a defense that has been up their ass all night long.
It's not very cordial for me to say what I just said. It's brutally honest, though. That is definitely where the Bears were all night long, was up the ass of the Rams offense. Jared Goff sacked 3 times, 4 interceptions, and, the safety at the start of the 3rd quarter. I mean, it was very reminiscent to me of the 2006 NFC Championship game against the Saints. It was a close ball game throughout. The Saints got within, I think, 2 points at one point in the second half. And then it ended up being ruled an intentional grounding penalty in the end zone on Drew Brees, which was a safety, and that turned everything after that. At that point, it went from being a 16-14 ball game to 18-14, and the Bears were rolling from there. They ended up scoring another 21 unanswered to win the game 39-14 and go to the Super Bowl. It was very much that kind of way, where it was a tight contest, and there was just, in the end, like I said, whoever made the fewest mistakes, and Goff didn't get the ball away, his receivers didn't get open, whoever's mistake it was, or the lineman that I said 2 linemen. Eddie Goldman literally pushed 2 guys aside, pushed one, his initial blocker out of the way, and then got through the second one, and he met Akeem Hicks at Jared Goff for the safety. So if Goldman doesn't get there, Akeem finishes him off. And we did that to the Rams offensive line all night long. Jared Goff was pressured 18 times last night, and this is for a quarterback who attempted 44 passes. So 18 out of 44, more than a third of the time that he dropped back to pass, he was under pressure. And it was, constantly in his face. And you heard me talk about the interception that Mitch threw. It became another no harm, no foul type situation when Kyle Fuller intercepted the ball back on the very next play. It goes back to what I said a few moments ago. This is a team that all throughout the year answers. They answer, and then they answer again. You can never count them out, which is what makes them so goddamn exciting to watch. In the past, in the recent past, and as recent as last year, something like that happens. We're moving the football like we were on that particular drive. The quarterback sails one over Trey Burton's head, over the receiver's head, into the waiting arms of the defender. Chances are they're going to get some points out of that, whether it be a field goal, they put one in the end zone, or whatever. The momentum has been stolen, and they're going to take advantage of it. Instead, Kyle Fuller goes out there, makes an excellent play on the ball, and steals the momentum back and made sure that Mitch's mistake was erased, essentially. It'll go down on the stat sheet, but it didn't really affect the outcome of the game other than it stopping the drive that was moving at the time. And that's what's so great about this game, and that's what's not talked about enough with the Bears right now. Everybody was talking leading up to this game. Are they contenders? Some people saying yes, they are. Others saying, well, let's wait and see after the Rams game, and so on and so forth. Very little is being said on a national level about the resiliency of this team. I mean, hell, even in a losing effort last week, the Bears did something that most teams don't do, coming back the way that they did in the final moments against the Giants. last Sunday, taking the risks that they took in order to put themselves in a position to send it into overtime and get themselves an opportunity to win the game. The Bears of past would not have done something like that. This team has, and I even mentioned it in a tweet last night, and I've mentioned it on the show before. This team is playing with an extra gear that we haven't seen them play with for a very, very long time. I mean, one of the things that I was envious of watching Green Bay over the years, watching other teams, whether it be the Seahawks or last year with the Vikings or the Saints and things like that, the Panthers of a couple of years ago, they always just seem to be playing football at a different level than the one the Bears were playing on, and that's why whenever they ran into one of those teams, they'd run us off the field. And this year, we're that team that's running everybody else off the field. We'll have our off days just like we did last Sunday against the Giants, but for the most part, we're going to go down kicking and screaming like we did against the Giants last week. And if you can't handle what we're bringing to the table, it's going to be a long night for you like it was for the Rams last night. Todd Gurley, the leading rusher in the NFL, had 28 yards rushing on 11 carries, and he had a long of 12 last night. So you take away that 12-yard run, it's 10 carries for 16 yards for the leading rusher in the NFL. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We dominated that offensive line throughout the entire football game. And you heard me mention it. I think I mentioned it in the preview that a year ago at this time, my strategy for slowing the Rams down would have been, well, we got to shut down Todd Gurley and put the ball in Jared Goff's hands. I said, I don't think Jared Goff is that quarterback right now. And that's why, the proposition of beating or slowing down this Rams offense was as daunting as it appeared to be. I watched that Monday night game where he put up 54 points on the Chiefs, 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Football. I watched that game. I watched him carry the team on his back and sling it all over the field and get them in a position to win that video game of an outcome that night. And it's like, okay, well, if we shut down Gurley, they still have a ton of guys to throw the football to. And, we got all these guys we got to worry about, and Gurley coming out of the backfield. I thought the Bears could do it, but would they be able to? Would they be able to account for everybody on the field all at once? And our defense spent the night making the Rams look average and very, very beatable. So, I've been saying all along, out of the teams in the NFC, who do I think the Bears had a better chance of beating? I said all along I thought it was the Rams, but that's because I thought we'd be able to slow down that offense and rack up points on that defense that was giving up 20-plus points a game. This game went the complete opposite way. We completely shut down their offense, and despite our deficiencies in moving the football and putting our own points on the board, 15 was enough to get us the win last night. Unbelievable. So we go into the fourth quarter, and the Bears put the nail in the coffin. Another interception of Jared Goff, maybe throwing another sack there as well. No points scored by either team. They did miss a field goal, poetically doinking it off the goalpost, which was that was just awesome when that happened. But a 0-point fourth quarter, but that also meant that the 2-score lead the Bears had going into the fourth quarter held, and our beloved came away with a very big win.
Knee-jerk reaction to the Bears and the Rams as the fourth quarter. And it's done. The Bears have beaten the best team in the NFL, and they did it soundly, 15-6. They couldn't put any points on the board in the fourth quarter, but they didn't need them anyway. The defense was beyond amazing tonight. 4 interceptions of Jared Goff. We sacked him a few times, once for a safety. That was the real difference in the football game. That changed the way that the Rams had to play because they had to score twice against this defense, not just once to tie it up. After the Bears scored that touchdown with Bradley Soul, it would have been 13-6, but instead 15-6 made it a 2-score game, and it comes right down to what I said it was going to in the end. Yes, the Bears have to stop Gurley. They got to slow down that passing game. They got to get after Jared Goff. But in the end, it was going to come down to which team made the fewest mistakes. And tonight, despite Trubisky's 3 interceptions, that team was the Bears. Those 3 interceptions were basically the mistakes that the Bears made tonight. Jared Goff threw 4 picks and got sacked for a safety. That's 5 mistakes just as a conservative count, and 5 is more than 3. The Bears with fewer mistakes, they come away with the victory. An outstanding win for the Bears. Now we get ready to go into the home stretch, our final home game next week, and this is the one that I want. I want this one so bad. We get Green Bay coming into Soldier Field next Sunday. I want the Bears to do this to Aaron Rodgers and smash the Packers into the turf next week. What a great win for the Bears. What an outstanding win. We move to 9-4. No matter what, we're at least a game and a half ahead of Minnesota if they win or lose, because they play tomorrow night against the Seahawks. If they win, they're a game and a half behind. If they lose, they're 2.5 behind the Bears with only 3 games left to play. Such an outstanding job coaching from Matt Nagy and especially from Vic Fangio. Just put together a scheme that shut the Rams offense, an offense scoring 35 points a game. We completely shut them down tonight. We win the ball game 15-6. What a great performance from our defense, and I don't think there's anyone out there who doubts whether or not the Bears can handle making a postseason run. With that defense, we have a chance against anybody that we play.
It's extremely fun for that to be an absolute legitimate point. The Bears can play with anybody. That's what everybody is saying about the Bears today. And it was a fear of mine with the way that the Bears won last night, that instead of the discussion being about the Bears and how dominant they were and how they stepped up on a major stage on national television, a game that was flexed to the national stage. It was supposed to be a noon kickoff game. Instead, it was presented for the whole world to see, and the Bears stepped up again, just like they did a few weeks ago on Minnesota when that game was flexed into prime time. Instead of it being about the Bears answering the bell once again and doing something that seemingly no one has been able to figure out how to do, even the Saints, who beat the Rams, they didn't do it as soundly as the Bears did last night, or as convincingly, or to make the Rams look as inept as they did on offense, which was unfathomable before we come into this game. My fear was that instead of the discussion being about elevating the Bears and their position in the NFC, that it would be a discussion about diminishing the Rams and what they've done this year. With the one loss, I mean, you look. Granted, they're an 11-2 football team right now, but both of those losses were against the other 2 teams in the NFC right now. In the discussion for the NFC crown, it's the Bears, the Saints, and the Rams. And for some people out there who are in love with Dallas's defense right now, Dallas is in the discussion right now because they're a division leader. They're going to make the playoffs most likely. But as far as teams that are going to be able to do it, make a deep playoff run, last night the Bears inserted themselves into that conversation. And with the Rams having played both the Saints and the Bears and losing to them both in a convincing way, two different scenarios, but the Rams and the Saints and the Bears convincingly beat the Rams. How good are the Rams, really? I mean, really the only big game that they won this year would be their victory over the Chiefs, and that was a home game. But you go on the road against the 2 best teams in the NFC, and you get it handed to you in both of those instances. I mean, the Rams made a hell of a more of a surge against the Saints than they did against us last night. But nonetheless, the 2 teams they're going to have to contend with, and most likely the 2 teams they're going to have to beat in order to make it to the Super Bowl, they haven't been able to do it. So I was worried that the discussion would be like, what's going on with the Rams, more so than how about them Bears. And from the national outlets that I had an opportunity to listen to today, it has been more of a discussion about the Bears than it has been about, wow, look at what happened with the Rams or anything like that. It's not being looked at as a fluke or an anomaly as far as what the Bears did. I think it's being looked at more of a fluke or an anomaly as to how the Bears managed to shut down the offensive genius that is Sean McVay last night. So, the playoffs can't get here fast enough, man. I really want to see what the Bears are going to be able to do in the postseason. I'm putting the cart before the horse on this one. We got a Green Bay game to get through first, but yeah, I'm pumped. The fact that even in the past, in 2010 or anything like that, when it came to high level football, the chances were that the Bears usually end up coming up short, which is why Lovey doesn't have a job in the NFL, or with the Bears anymore, I should say. But this is a team I feel like, we're going to be able to do this. We can absolutely do this. The one big concern, obviously, being our quarterback position right now. We seem to, do a lot in repairing our run game last night. But, the quarterback, we got to figure out what's going on with him. Is it more of a fundamental thing? Is his shoulder still bothering him? That kind of thing. Hopefully it's questions that we can have answered by Sunday when we play the Packers, and it was just more of a bad day, more of a ring rust kind of thing for Mitch, and he comes back, and all of these things can be put to rest when we play Green Bay in a few days. But until we do, those questions will remain. So he seems to be the one thing keeping people from saying absolutely the Bears are legit. Based on what people are saying right now is that we'll need a performance like that from the defense every week to offset the damage that Mitch Trubisky is going to do on the offensive side. It's not a bad argument right now because no one can disagree with that based on the way that he played last night. But I can't wait to find out. I honestly can't wait to find out. So anyway, our beloved come away with their with the big victory over the Rams, 15-6 to move to 9-4. We still hold on to the third spot in the NFC playoff race, a game ahead of the Cowboys, who are at 8-5. We have the Packers coming in on Sunday, and going to be busy this week. The Acme Packing Company podcast hosts asked me to make an appearance on the show. We'll be recording the appearance tomorrow on Tuesday, and I will keep you guys posted on Twitter and such as to when that episode is going to come out, so you can hear me talk about that with the Acme Packing guys. And Evan Western, our good friend from Acme Packing Company on SB Nation, I'll be talking to him on Wednesday in preparation for Thursday's preview episode. So that is going to be a fun discussion, because definitely we're going to be talking about week one. I would love to hear what week one was like from a Packer fan perspective. How much of Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth's over exaggeration of Aaron Rodgers' situation were they buying into, or what have you? Do they agree that they were kind of overdoing it with their praise of Aaron Rodgers and not being able to walk under his own power and all that garbage? Or were they just too busy enjoying the fact that Rodgers did it to the Bears again? So we'll talk to Evan about that, the firing of McCarthy, his thoughts on Joe Philbin being head coach, and what he sees happening on Sunday, and if he's looking forward to it at all. So anyway, that's going to do it for the Week 14 review. What do you say we go ahead and wrap things up with everybody's favorite segment, Bear Up, Bear Down. Use promo code BEARS25 to get a 50% deposit bonus to kickstart your bankroll on MyBookie. And, big games with the Bears coming up this week with the Packers. A lot of other action around the NFL. Bowl games are starting this weekend, those games that we're really super interested in, with some of the most ridiculous names I've ever heard in my life. It really kind of has gotten out of hand. I mean, they only let 4 teams into the college football playoff, but there are teams that are going to be 6-5 or 6-6 and 5-7 playing in bowl games this weekend, and we really need that. We need a Gasparilla Bowl, whatever the hell that is, but we can't have 8 teams in the playoffs to definitively answer the question about who the best team is. And It would end the debate on why number 5 can't get in, who the number 5 team is, and all the rest of that garbage. It's a much harder argument to make that the number 9 team should be in than it would be to make an argument about the 5 team to get in. So anyway, you'll have that and many more. The NHL, the NBA, college basketball, they're going to start conference play here pretty soon. So plenty of action to be had at MyBookie. You play, you win, and you get paid. And now we move on to the Week 14 bear up, bear down list. And we only have one bear down, so I'm going to just go ahead and get it out of the way. And you hate to kind of pile on, but he really was the only person I was unhappy with last night, and that's Mitch Trubisky, and got nothing to do with like feeling like he let us down or anything like that. He just played a bad football game. He was literally all over the place throwing the football. He was lowballing. He was, in some cases, like he threw a ball so hard at Taylor Gabriel when he was only about 6 yards away. I swear to God, I thought it was going to leave a hole in Taylor Gabriel's hands if he tried to catch it. Like it would have just taken his hands clean off his arms. If Gabriel had tried to catch that ball. He threw it so damn hard. That's why I was thinking something's not right with his mechanics. Maybe his shoulder is still bothering him, and maybe need a little more treatment. But, he looked great on his feet. He avoided some sacks last night. But overall, if the ball game came down to him, he would have let us down last night. Thankfully, the defense was just too good for it to matter, to tell you the truth. And the tally for mistakes was all on the Trubisky end, and thankfully our defense was able to force more mistakes, out of the Rams to get us the victory last night. So bear down to Mitch Trubisky, but here's hoping that you bounce back on Sunday against the Packers and make us forget about it all. Okay, on the bear upside, there are a ton of names on this list. First of all, let's start with our offensive line. They did an outstanding job last night. Aside from those few pressures that Trubisky was under last night, did they even get a sack on Mitch last night? One. They got one sack last night. John Franklin Myers, a defensive edge. So there was one sack on Trubisky last night, but he was under pressure a couple of other times, but managed to get away, used his feet to scramble and get out of the pocket and get something out of those. But the big thing being that everyone was worried about the force that is Aaron Donald and what he would be able to do, the kind of chaos that he would put this Bears offense through, that offensive line. And aside from them talking about him from time to time, when they compared him and Khalil Mack to each other, their contracts, their sack totals, and all that kind of stuff, when it came down to actual plays, I know that Aaron Donald made a tackle on a short yardage situation, but he did not sack Mitch Trubisky. He did not get close to sacking Mitch Trubisky last night, and he was a virtual non-factor in the game, and that's a bear up to the offensive line and their offensive line coach, Harry Hiestand. Just an outstanding job, specifically from James Daniels, who was tasked with being head up on Aaron Donald for most of the football game. But big shout outs to Brian Witzman, who did not play well last week against the Giants. Bear up to Cody Whitehair, who was offering a lot of help on the inside on Donald, and our tackles, Bobby Massey and Charles Leno. They, aside from that one sack, kept Mitch clean all night long and opened up big lanes for Jordan Howard to have his first 100-yard game of the season. So big bear ups to our offensive line answering the call last night when the task seemed to be daunting. Not only did you have Aaron Donald, but you had Ndamukong Suh, you had Michael Brockers, you had Dante Fowler coming off the edge and everything else. It was a big task that the offensive line was asked to do, and they pulled it off in spades last night. And conversely, bear up to our defensive front last night. Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, Roy Robertson Harris got in, hit Jared Goff last night. Leonard Floyd making plays last night. Aaron Lynch getting some pressure in the passing game as well. We were just constantly in and dominating an offensive line that had been solid and consistent all year long. We were under pressure 18 out of 44 times. That's actually almost half. That's a hell of a lot more than a third. Almost half of the time Jared Goff dropped back to pass, somebody was in his face. Somebody was causing the trajectory of his throw to be altered, or for him to actually have to throw it to somebody else in order to avoid the sack, or, and then bear ups to our secondary. Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, Prince Mukamura, another interception for him, another interception for Eddie Jackson, another interception for Kyle Fuller last night. Adrian Amos, the only one not getting in on it last night. Big bear up to Sherrick McManus. Bryce Callahan goes down with a foot injury early in the second quarter, and it's like we never missed him. Sherrick McManus coming in, making tackles. He was the one that made a tackle on Gurley when the Rams were in the red zone at one point and slowing him down. And everything. Everybody came to play last night. Bear up Roquan Smith, his first interception in a very long time. His first interception as a Bear put the Bears in a position to take an early lead on the Rams. Unfortunately, the offense only came away with a field goal, but Roquan put us in that position there. Danny Trevathan being all over the place last night. It's just like everybody on defense. I mean, you got to give a Bear up to the entire defense. They swallowed the Rams whole last night. It was a beautiful thing to watch. Very old school, watching us do it with defense and a running game last night. Being able to win the way that we did despite Mitch 110 yards on 30 attempts and 3 interceptions. The one touchdown scored in the entire football game to Bradley Soul. By the way, bear up Bradley Soul. Not only did you catch the touchdown, you also had a pretty awesome touchdown celebration dance as well. Bear up Matt Nagy. He hasn't been outcoached all year. It hasn't happened yet. He took his foot off the gas in the Green Bay game. It was special teams that got us beat against New England. I don't think he got outcoached in Miami. That would probably be the one you could make an argument for. But, last week against the Giants was just a bad day. So, that's something that we haven't really been able to see. Even during the Lovey years, man, there were times we were just outmatched. We were being outsmarted by our opponents, and that's not happening anymore. And I think last night was perfect, was evident of that fact. We had one of the smartest minds in football matching wits with Vic Fangio. Bear up Vic Fangio. And the Bears came away convincing winners in that duel right there. Fangio definitely giving McVay more than he could chew last night. And let's not forget, bear up Jordan Howard. 19 carries, 101 yards, 5.3 yards a carry with a long of 20. That was vintage Jordan Howard, what we were seeing last night. I think that's something that I did mention during that knee-jerk reaction that nobody's ever going to hear. In the second quarter, vintage Jordan Howard was what we were seeing last night. Running through tackles, the first person that touches him is on the second level, that kind of thing. Able to break off runs of 10, had a long of 21 at one point last night. That's the Jordan Howard that we're used to seeing. Bear up Tariq Cohen, 9 carries for 69 yards, which again goes to me giving praise to the offensive line. 170 yards rushing from our top 2 running backs last night, and on top of the 23 from Mitch as well. So nearly 200 yards rushing from our backfield last night against that defense. So very impressive all around. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. Got Howard, Fangio, Fuller, Hicks, Goldman, Smith, Floyd, Trevathan, Jackson, Sowell, offensive line, Matt Nagy. There you have it. I guess if we had to name one other Bear down, it would be an honorable mention. Cody Parkey missed another field goal last night, but at least he didn't doink it off the upright, so that's why he doesn't make the Bear down list. More of an honorable mention for missing the field goal. It really wouldn't have mattered. It still would have been a 2-score game. It would have just been 18-6 instead of 15-6, so it didn't really matter, but you got to make those kicks. But overall, an outstanding performance from our beloved. It was a lot of fun walking into work today wearing my Bears shirt, and we're on casual dress throughout the month of December, so I can wear a T-shirt. I wore a long sleeve Bears T-shirt with my jeans today, and very proudly displaying that orange C on my chest as I walk through the walk through the office, people asking me about the game last night. How did it go? Like, you don't know. The Bears kicked ass last night. They're awesome. So, yeah, it was an awesome feeling knowing that we came away victors in our biggest test of the year, that we dominated that ball game, that it wasn't really the back and forth that we were actually, honestly, that I was hoping for, because I thought it was going to be like going into that Tampa Bay game. I either thought it was going to be a knockdown drag out or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to kill us. That's how I thought it was going to be with the way that they played offense at the time. And, that's what I was kind of expecting with the Rams game. You guys heard me say it in the preview when talking to Brad Mader. I thought the Rams were either going to kill us, like we wouldn't be able to, they would have just been better than us and we weren't quite ready yet, or it was going to be a fight to the finish. And it was neither. Actually, even though the score was relatively close, the score does not really tell the story about the dominant performance that the Bears put together last night. And them being talked about as legitimate contenders for the Super Bowl is it's a fun discussion to listen to. And as soon as Mitch gets things figured out, hopefully he does it still in 2018, then we'll really be something to worry about. So, I mean, it's just because we can't quite depend on Mitch at the time, because we have weapons. We have Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, Taylor Gabriel, Anthony Miller, Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen out of the backfield, and everything else. So we know that this offense can click. We know that this offense can go, but we need our quarterback to play well in order to do that. So he hasn't done it on a consistent enough basis for people to be, to just slap their money on the table and said, I'm putting my money on the Bears. The defense is good enough to make a lot of people do that, but most people are kind of shaky about it, to be honest, at this point, because of our quarterback. But nonetheless, we're going to be okay, and I can't wait to get to it. I really can't wait to do some postseason episodes, man. That's going to be so much fun, talking about do or die situation. And so far this year, in do or die situations, the Bears have come out on top, and it's been a joy to watch and take part in and to talk to you guys about. It's been absolutely a blast. So I can't wait to see where this is all going. So anyway, that is going to do it for the Week 14 review of the Bears Talk Underground. Keep your eyes on Twitter and Facebook. Tomorrow, I'll be letting you guys know when my appearance on the Acme Packing Company podcast will be released. I don't know if it's going to be Tuesday night or first thing on Wednesday, but I'll be sure to let you know. We'll be talking to Evan Western from Acme Packing Company on Wednesday night for the Thursday night preview episode. So that's going to be a fun discussion. Evan and I talking about week one and everything that's gone down between both of our teams throughout the year. I think the Bears are having the year that everyone thought Green Bay was going to have, and Green Bay's having the year that everyone thought the Bears were going to have. So, with this first year and all the new moving parts, they thought things would be interesting for the Bears, but not that we'd be a 9-win team closing in on a division title this weekend. So we'll talk to Evan about all of that and so much more. So come back on Thursday for the preview. And until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been the Bears Talk Underground.